What's the power supply like in your part of Abuja? Mine has been terrible. I have stopped buying food in bulk and storing food in the fridge or freezer. It's heartbreaking to throw out food. So for many people like myself, we go to the market and cook when we want to eat. And if, like me, you don't like generators, you're probably sleeping in the dark with your windows open. Thank God for the rain. It's a little cooler at night these days. It's been poor these few weeks. I must tell you, it's exhausting to be talking about power supply at this time. But we must. It's our country, and we have to fix what's wrong. And that's what my guest is focused on. He and his organization are asking that this privatization arrangement be reevaluated. Will the government listen to them? This week on our Focus on the FCT, we take a look at power supply in one of the worst hit areas in Abuja, Lugbe. And as we do every week, we keep you updated on the major stories from the seat of power. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. We begin with a look at the major stories from Nigeria's presidency.
President Muhammadu Buhari received a briefing on the nation's extended continental shelf project, headed by the Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami. Speaking while receiving the report, the president says he's looking forward to the day he can announce to Nigerians that additional maritime territory has been approved for Nigeria by the United Nations Commission on the limits of the continental shelf.
This type of project where Nigeria will gain additional territory without conflict has never happened before in our lifetime. I am therefore glad that it is happening within our lifetime. This is one of the many reasons why I have been ardently following your progress over time. It is my intention to support the submission to the United Nations for additional maritime area in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea to claim for Nigeria every bit of space that she deserves under United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea.
President Buhari has ordered the release of 40,000 metric tons of assorted grains to Nigerians from the Strategic Grains Reserve. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mr. Mohammed Mahmoud, made this known in Abuja, adding that the idea is to provide some palliatives for Ramadan and Easter festivities.
The President has directed that we sit and discuss, and not just the Minister of Agriculture, but NALDA, NCFI, all of those that are concerned, the Central Bank. We have met 2-3 times to discuss the issue of Ukraine. Yes, indeed, Nigeria imports grains and other agricultural input from Ukraine. We are making sure that we look inwards and outward to make sure this conflict does not affect our agricultural sector.
The president has sworn in 5 national commissioners, each for the National Population Commission and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. They were sworn in before the commencement of the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting. Talking about the cabinet meeting, the council approved memos for the Ministries of Power, Defense, Water Resources, and Science, Technology and Innovation. At the regular briefing, the Minister of Information speaks about security in the country.
Now what's happening now is that there's a kind of unholy handshake between bandits and Boko Haram insurgents. And the preliminary reports of what transpired at the Kaduna train attack shows that there's been a kind of collaboration between the bandits and the dislodged Boko Haram fighters from the northeast.
The president also presided over the Council of State meeting, the 4th since he was elected president in 2015. The meeting discussed security, census, and prerogative of mercy.
Normally, we give about 6 months to 8 months after the pilot census before we conduct the main census. So that's why we're also conducting the main census after the elections have taken place and the outcomes are revealed. So that will be between March and April.
Like he did with members of the National Assembly, President Buhari observed the breaking of fast with members of the judiciary, led by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Muhammad. Within the week, the president had few communications with federal lawmakers. Among them is the Money Laundering Prohibition Bill 2022, and the other is the Terrorism Prevention Bill. The bill was read on the floor of both chambers of the National Assembly.
We passed the budget with an increment to the police salaries that was promised by the president himself. We increased the police salary by 182 billion. That is, I think that's the only difference between the Appropriation Act and the Amendment Bill. It's just the police increment. And in the president's request letter to the House, he requested the House to reduce our inputs that was sent to him in the 2022 Appropriation Act, where we acted. We acted and do some adjustment to the budget to fit his request.
The National Assembly also received a request from the President for adjustment to the 2022 fiscal framework, and they considered the request and passed it before proceeding for their Easter holiday. They also passed an amendment 17.3 trillion naira 2022 budget. The federal lawmakers discussed the security situation in the country, asking President Buhari to immediately employ the services of machineries to bring an end to the scourge of insecurity. In separate sessions, they highlighted the situation in Kaduna, Niger, Zamfara, Benue, Katsina, and Plateau states. After several months of speculation, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo declared his desire to run for the highest office in the land. In a pre-recorded message, Professor Osinbajo highlighted how his experiences, insights, opportunities can be used for Nigeria and Nigerians.
If by the grace of God and the will of the people, I am given the opportunity, then I believe that first we must complete what we have started, radically transforming our security and intelligence architecture, completing the reform of our justice system, focusing on adequate remuneration and welfare of judicial personnel, and ensuring justice for all and the observance of the rule of law.
In his efforts to mobilize support for his presidential ambition, Professor Osinbajo met with members of the National Assembly under the All Progressives Congress. He met separately with members from the Senate and the House of Representatives. Whereas the Senate President, Senator Ahmed Lawan, was present at the meeting, the Speaker, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, was absent at the meeting. The Vice President is calling for international collaboration to deliver stability to Lake Chad region. He made the call while opening the first international forum on Lake Chad development.
The results and recommendations of this forum are to be transmitted to the various governments to guide policy making and strategic decisions that need to be taken in the short and long term, related, of course, to the development of the region. And I can assure you that the federal government of Nigeria will be an active participant in turning these recommendations into firm actions.
Welcome back. For some of you in Abuja, the poor power supply may be a recent phenomenon. But for the residents of Lugbe, this is a problem they've been dealing with for months. Our focus on the FCT listens to the residents and the impact this poor power situation is having on their lives and businesses. Please watch this.
Lugbe is one of the more affordable districts in the nation's capital, about 15 minutes away from the city center. It is one of Abuja's oldest districts. Many people searching for greener pastures in Abuja make their way to Lugbe, mostly because of how affordable housing is here. This massive migration of people into Lugbe has put a strain on its infrastructure, especially roads. The dilapidation of Lugbe's overwhelmed infrastructure is a cause for concern among its ever-growing residents as the power supply has become almost extinct in the district. The sound of generators filled the air of Lugbe's federal housing with unease and dangerous fumes. These generators run for days as the power supply worsens, taking a toll on the health and finances of residents and businesses. In the city center, the UTC shopping complex is popular for the high number of small businesses in the area. Like Lugbe, many of the businesses here resort to generators amidst the energy crisis.
If they give us 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 a.m., then by 10, at least, let's say 95% of people here will be using generator. And luckily, we will have inverter here to back us up in a bit before putting on our journey. If not, we won't meet up to the customer demand. So we will not be struggling. And now, there's no fuel. For you to get it, it's another problem.
I'm paying for that, I'm not using light. At the end of the month, they'll still charge me and I'll pay. Now you say you're paying for services and nobody's doing it to you.
According to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, manufacturers spend not less than 30% of their production cost on generators. Over 40% extra in total are added to costs, making Nigerian goods uncompetitive.
Nigerians are traveling to Ghana. Because of what? When they get there, their business will be boosted. But here you pay for lights and you make less use of it. Not even up to 10% use of the light you pay for.
Today, Wednesday, is complete 1 month that we don't have light here. And they've not given us any reason. Even as of yesterday, we went there. As a task force chairman on this area, I talked to them. They are just telling us they are on the issue. They are on the issue. Why we don't even have any solution? Even I was supposed to settle my landlord last week. Because of this light issue, I can't be able. I have to plead him to exercise patience for me. So it really affects the business.
This shop has been here for the past 7 years now, going to 8 years. As you can see, there are 5 seats in the salon here, but we're only left with 2 people now because the business is so bad and they have left. And what is affecting the business is the light issue and the economy as well. So when people turn off, the business will be good. Then even the effect of the NEPA not giving us light, we can manage. But irrespective of the fact that there is no NEPA light and the little one you're getting, it's not really helping out.
The light is so epileptic that we don't even know what to say again. It comes and it goes at, I don't know. Like minimum I spend every day on fuel is minimum is 3,000. Minimum. If the epileptic lights come and maybe sustain us for another 2-3 hours and goes, then we'll have to refuel again and start all over from where we stop. So the thing is not funny at all. We are not enjoying it.
For over 2 weeks now, we have been suffering for light issue here. And it's really affecting the business a lot. We are having more than enough shortage around. We run, for me to power my gen daily, I have to run almost 4 gallons. For me just to run, when I resume 7:30 in the morning, then close by 8 p.m. So I have to run almost 4 gallons.
This week, the nation recorded another collapse of the national grid. The Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliu, blames the latest collapse on sabotage.
You can call it a sabotage because how can somebody go and pull down a 330 tower to cause this havoc to the whole country? What do you call that? And not quite long, in January, 4th of January, the project that we have announced that we are going to commission, the Zungero, 700 megawatts hydro, which is at present over 90% completion, over 92%. We are just doing little touches to commission the project. The project was attacked on 4th of January this year. And they abducted the foreign workers.
According to the Ministry of Power, Nigeria currently generates up to 8,000 megawatts, and the government, under the CMN's Presidential Power Initiatives, is working to ensure optimum supply of gas to facilitate speedy restoration of power in the shortest possible time.
My guest on the program is Engineer Israel Abraham, the president of the Nigerian Institute of Power Engineers. He says the government does not act on their suggestions as experts in the field of power. He points out the chinks in Nigeria's power chain. He wants a re-evaluation of Nigeria's power privatization drive and introduces another dimension that could be the bane of Nigeria's power supply. Please watch this. Engineer Israel Abraham, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you for receiving me. It's my pleasure.
You know, I know personally that you're a TCN, you're part of the TCN structure, but I'll get to that. That's the Transmission Company of Nigeria structure. Yeah. But I'll get to that shortly. Let's talk a bit about vandalism. At the Federal Executive Council meeting, you know, the minister was asked about, you know, these constant acts of vandalism on power installations across the country, and he actually said this is sabotage. You know, and I heard the Minister of Information also talk about the fact that people who are doing this are not trying to hurt the government, they are hurting the Nigerian people. What do you think about these issues of vandalism? The last one was at Odukpani, 330 kVA tower.
Yeah. Vandalism is a kind of economic sabotage, as well.
You agree with this idea of sabotage?
Yes, of course it is. And
why? Why is it sabotage?
Reason because you are destroying critical infrastructures. Any act of vandalism, whether in pipeline or transmission tower or even a power plant, they are all the same kind of vandalism. They all boil to the same thing. You're destroying what makes your country grow. Because without those things, without those critical infrastructure, there's no way you can say Nigeria is growing or we have.
There have been 5 grid losses this year so far. Are you attributing all of these grid losses to vandalism?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, they're not all due to vandalism. But the question which I want to remain just as you talk about vandalism is that it's actually not the normal type of what you should expect to bring about system collapse in the first place. Because a system collapse should come in maybe due to some other areas of grid problems, like maybe lack of enough generation or stuff like that. But this one is those ones, even when you restore back, they are still the way they are. But for vandalism, they are not the way they are. You need to bring in funds to either reconstruct such line
or buy the things that were stolen.
Yes, so it's a different ballgame entirely.
We've identified the problem. So how do we stop it?
Okay. Now, every of these equipments or towers and all the rest, they are used by certain persons. Now, if for any reason you can track that this thing cannot be sold easily, then you can easily know where it's coming from. For instance, if somebody steals a transformer, for instance, where will he sell it? He has to sell it in the market. But you cannot have that if you can identify everybody. At the moment, you can't identify everybody. It's an open kind of market, which is wrong. But this is a clearly technical equipment that ought to have been well protected, that you can know where to get it from. And once you can do that, and you can easily know, oh, you can't get cable anywhere. You can't, because vandalism is not just for the towers. Most of them are looking for the cables. Aluminum, where we can smelt it, so smelt the iron members to do some other things. So a lot of things are involved. So if you now know these people, know what this body, who and who can get these things, let them be fully identified so that you can know where to get their materials from.
There's been a blame game going on. You know, when you talk to someone from the Gencos, they'll say, oh, it's transmission and disco. Transmission and disco will say, no, it's the Gencos. Then, you know, Nigerians start to understand things that we're not supposed to understand. It's true. These things have entered our lexicon. Now, we didn't plan to understand what Gencos and discos, and all we knew was when we come back home, we turn on the light, and there is light. And if they're charging me for it, be fair, I pay, and we move on. Now, you have the money, you can't buy electricity. And even when you bought your, like I bought electricity, I can't use it, because there's no light. There's no electricity. So talk to us about this back and forth.
There are 4 major players that make up the industry, or 4 value chain. The first of which you have just talked about, the generation, the second, the transmission, the third, the distribution, and the fourth, the regulation, the monitoring, the politics, the socio-economic aspect of it all. All that play more and more critical than in the first 3.
How does politics affect my electricity?
I will tell you, the Nigerian system has too much politicization in it. Over 90% of everything that goes on in Nigeria is politicized.
In power supply, how is politics affecting me
because
right now?
the minister of power is an appointee of the government. So that's politics already. He has to decide what government wanted. And the policy of government will eventually go down to work good or bad, as the case may be.
So talk to us about these policies. Are you saying that there are issues?
Of course, there are
policies
issues
in the power sector.
Yeah, there are a lot of.
What's going on?
Yeah, there are a lot of issues with it. Now, I'll give you an instance. We've privatized for close to since 2013 to date, and we will talk about the blame game of distribution and so on and so on. This is because a lot of things were done wrongly from even the policy stage, or even the implementation of whatever is written down, or the I call it transactions.
Such as
the transactions of who are the owners of the GenCos, how did they come in, what did they have? Did they have the technical capacity? Did they have the financial wherewithal to be? Because if they have financial wherewithal, by now they have to have invested. Because the main reason why you privatize in the first place is because you wanted these people to come in with their money. You want these people to come with their technical capacities. You want them to bring in those knowledge, those high-tech knowledge, which we see people explore.
Are you saying the GenCos don't have that?
Well, the GenCos may have done some things, but they still need to do more. And the DISCOs, for instance, they need to bring in money. All of them need to bring in money, which I'm sure they are not bringing in right now. Because if they bring in money, you won't be talking of having bought your credit and not be able to supply. Because they will have used that money to make the network to work. The network is a connection of wires and transformers.
You've called for a review. I want to get. You said you wanted a review of the nation's electricity supply industry. What does that mean?
A review is such that the review we're looking at is get back to basics.
What does this entail?
What it entails is that we've done these things for close to this time. Can we look at it holistically and pick out what is not working and get them straightened out?
Such as?
Such as one, I just discussed about the discourse, for instance.
Can you need to bring in money?
Yes,
get more
people who are willing to come in and use their money to make this thing work.
So you want more people?
Yes, you want more people. Okay. Because if they come with their money, with their finances, and you come with more people with more technical ability, and also the old privatization was done in such a way that it was just taken to the 11 companies or the 11 group that the old PACN was operating on. But you ought to have looked at it and say, look, can these people manage these things? As it stands, they can't, because it's like they don't have enough money to invest on it. So why not get more people to take more areas of this thing, so that the more you have more people taking up this area, the more I believe you can actually, each of them can use their money to make this thing work. Because when you have good network, for instance, I'm speaking as a power engineer now, if you have good network, the electricity will flow through them. But if you have an situation where rainfall and it goes down, you have something that maybe the wind just blew and everywhere is in darkness, it tells you the network was not well built.
But that's why we have to wrap it up on Dateline Abuja today. Thank you so much, Engineer Abraham, for being with us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us on their power supply challenges. It could not have been easy. If you live in a densely populated part of Abuja, chances are that you spend so much on fuel to power your generators. And it's even worse if you run a business in these districts. The original target for Nigeria's power generation in 2020 was 40,000 megawatts. We are doing less than 4,000 megawatts. Let me put this in perspective for you. China in 2020 generated 7,623 terawatts. 1 million megawatts make 1 terawatt. 1 million. So in megawatts, China in 2020 alone generated 7.6 billion megawatts. We must keep talking about this, but for now, That's a wrap on this week's episode of Dateline Abuja. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Megwa. See you next time.